Hello everybody, Muttley here, and welcome to my highlights from the COTA round of the TASCAR series, which means I'm very nearly up to date, just one more to go, and then I'll be back on track, basically. So here we are then, starting the race in P8, going into the very tight turn 1, a little bit of a touch with the car in front, who then made contact with my teammate Assassin, who was starting much higher than me, which is obviously far from ideal. There was quite predictably a bit of a cluster at T1 here, very tight corner, so it's always likely that something, specifically contact, is going to occur, and unfortunately Assassin was probably the biggest loser in all of that. The guy in front of me though, probably one of the biggest winners. He had a fantastic start. He was starting I think it was about 12th, could be wrong, in the number 13 car, and he's all the way up to P7. Basically thanks to turn 1. I'm going to try and relieve him of that position though. You can see I have a little bit of an attempt already going through the first sector. Covers me off well with a nice defensive line into the hairpin that leads onto the back straight, and the 16 tries to make or take advantage as we head onto said long back straight. It doesn't quite seem to have the run though. I'm sitting much closer in the slipstream of the car ahead of me than the car ahead of him, as we're sort of 2 by 2 as we enter the hairpin coming off of the back straight, and there's contact on the outside line between those two cars, so it's back to being isolated between me and the 13 for this battle as I look around the outside for the right-hander. If we can keep it here, we'll be on the inside for the corner of 1,000 corners, because that one's back. And yes, I know I said 1,000 corners, not 1,000 lines again. That was half intentional, I suppose. But anyway, I did manage to keep it up the inside there, and so that's up to P6 now, because we gained one when there was the contact on the outside of us. Didn't mention that. Yeah, so pretty good first lap from me so far then. Obviously not a brilliant turn 1 for the team, with Assassin dropping down a few positions, but he's also had a very good recovery first few laps. Obviously you won't see his point of view, but he dropped all the way to 13th, and you'll see in a matter of laps that he appears right behind me again. In fact, here he is. We're on lap 3, which is obviously on the second racing lap, on the back straight, and he's right there already. And he's so much quicker than me around here. He's been, like I've said before, he's quicker than me in general around in this TASCAR car, no matter what the track, so I was never going to hold him up. And just one more lap later, actually it's only really half a lap, isn't it, as we start, well, we're not starting, but we're in the first sector of lap 4. Assassin's looking for the way past the car ahead, switching back through the S's, dives to the inside, and there's all kinds of contact. I don't know if he just didn't expect Assassin to dive to the inside like that for the last bit of the S's, but whatever happened, I will happily take 2 positions. A couple more. We are actually jumping a few further laps into this race, onto lap 8 now, and it's my turn to try and go for the overtake, but at that horrific corner I just didn't quite get it stopped on the inside line. It's very much a plausible and very possible to make a move there if you do dive to the inside like that. I just got it wrong and went too deep, so I backed off and made sure to give the position back, and inadvertently handed Assassin 2 positions as well. So yeah, it was obviously not the best thing for the 24 car. I have inadvertently helped out my teammate by hindering him, but it clearly wasn't my intention, and I did give him the position back from me, at least. But I wasn't going to give it up completely though, obviously. I'm still going to try and get past him, just I'm going to try and do it properly. The very next lap he covers the inside line, so I can't completely take us both out again. So I looked around the outside, but it was never really going to work around there. It just wasn't quite in the right position. Again, if you get it right around there, you can make that outside line work, because you get a better exit towards the really long right-hander. But I wasn't in that position, and in the end it would be again one more lap later, roughly onto lap 10, and the 24 car would just get all sideways sort of at the start of the second sector around here. I don't really know, I should have looked up the corner names for this track, because I don't really know any of them, or numbers even, at least. But the first sector's kind of the S's, then you got the bit including to the next bit where he made a mistake down to the back straight, and then the last bit is sort of the last sector, which is sort of this bit, I suppose. That's a lovely bit of rambling, isn't it? Because not a lot of it made sense. But the long and short of that clip was he made a mistake and I got past. And yeesh, those are some worn tyres. We've cut all the way onto lap 15. Now onto lap 16, as I do decide to dive into the pits. And on the pit exit, we're going to see, I don't know who that is, it's gone flying past, but there's a car just ahead of us there. What's that? The number 70. He's the car that we're now going to be talking about, because he's the one that's going to be involved in the action with not one, but two VPR TAS cars. I don't know if we're necessarily calling them TAS cars because they're in the TAS car series, or are they still NASCARs in the TAS car series? Random thought of the day. We do catch a little bit of, I don't want to say backmarker traffic, but I don't think that other guy had pit yet, so he wasn't really in the same race as us, so we did decide to dive out of the way. I don't think he really cost me or the 70 any time, so, you know, kudos to him. And the reason I said not one but two VPR cars was involved in this battle, because look who's coming out of the pits up ahead. Hello, Mr. Assassin, it's back again. So he has jumped the number 70 through his pit stop strategy, going all the way to lap 17 before he came into the pits, and he's obviously got a much shorter 14 lap stint to the end. I seem to be struggling a lot more with my tyres in this race, so I split my stints right down the middle at the end of lap 16. Obviously one of those 16 laps is the warm-up lap at the start of the race, so I've effectively done two stints of 15 laps. And my tyres were just, they were so gone. I don't know how Assassin was so much better on his tyres to make them last that much longer. But tyre strategy is arguably really rather boring, whereas on-track fighting is much more exciting. So let's focus on a little bit more of that. You've just seen in that last clip, while I was talking about tyres, that I had a little bit of a look at trying to overtake the number 70 and it didn't quite pay off. So we're going to jump to 19, and once again a car in front of me makes a bit of a mistake at sort of the end of the first sector. I don't actually know where the sector split pops up, but sort of that, now we're starting the second sector in my head, if that makes sense. Anyway, this particular corner going onto the back straight seemed to be where I could gain quite a bit of time on the number 70. Even if he did pull ahead of me, or pull a gap to me in the first sector, there was just something about the run down the back straight. I just seemed to be able to do it a little bit better. And on this occasion, I think I'm close enough to go for a move. So here we are, side by side, around the hairpin. He's still around the outside, and that's very well done. So I'm going to switch to the inside again and go for another dive to hit the apex. And it's still on the right-hand side. And I've already mentioned about maybe making a move here, so we're going to switch to the inside again and go for it, but once again I've gone too deep. No, I haven't. I've done it really nicely. I thought for sure I was going too deep. But the 70 has got that good exit that I talked about that you can get from the outside line, and he made it to the inside for the long right-hander. And if you're on the inside of that long right-hander, you've got one hell of an advantage, as we have seen here. But he's run wide around the penultimate corner, loses momentum, and once again we're side by side around the final corner. Now this corner is like my weakest corner on the track. I was really struggling to get a good exit down the pit straight. So two tight corners leading onto two long straights, and two very different scenarios. I mean, just look at the gap. I know he's sort of made a mistake there and run wide, but there was quite a significant gap at the very start of that clip, and as soon as we come down the back straight, we just practically sat on his bumper. And I know he ran a little bit wide mid-corner there in that particular clip, but trust me, that was happening quite a lot. I was getting a good run down here, and not always necessarily going for the move, but I was always getting a lot closer. And of course, because this is a highlights video, you are basically only going to see the instances of me actually going for a move down into that corner when it pays off, because, well, you know, it'd be boring if I was showing you lots of times where nothing happened. 70 running a little bit wide through that corner of 1,000 lines, and once again he's on the inside, so I don't decide to try and hang it around the outside. I tried to sort of lift off and squirt the throttle to try and tuck under him and get the inside in the mid corner, but that didn't work in the slightest. So once again we're going down the back straight then, the start of another little battle as we dive up the inside into the tight left hander. and he's going to be around my outside once again. I can't swap to the inside this time though, because I've got a pretty decent exit, so I'm going to stick it round his outside, around the right-hander. We've been here before, but he clears me going into the next corner of 1,000 lines, so we're going to go for that sort of deeper line, see if we can get a better exit than him towards the long right-hander, but no, we're pretty even. So once again, we're on the back straight. A little bit further back this time though, so I'm not going to be diving into the hairpin, but he does make a little bit of a mistake, and that's not really a hairpin, is it? So once again, as we approach this right-hander, it's very, very close. I've switched it back. I've sort of got to his right-hand side, but I haven't. So I dive once again, but I don't know what happened there. Once again, I completely lost track of where he was, but I dived, and similar with the 24 car, I just didn't get it stopped on the inside line, and I completely blocked him off. So I tried to sort of turn to the left of the track and lift off the throttle to give him his position back, and I didn't realise that he'd done the under and over on me and cut back to the apex anyway, and got that better run and better exit that way, and I ended up nearly turning into him. But he did get his position back briefly before making a mistake at the penultimate corner again. We've seen him do that before, and I had another go up the inside of the final corner, but as I mentioned earlier, that final corner is not a particularly good corner for me. We're going to stay on board this time though, as this is going to be one very long clip as I make them. Oh, that's a terrible mistake going around turn 1, getting the rear end loose down towards turn 2 as well, and getting the line completely wrong through there. Oh, that's the dodgy cut. That's another little bit of a dodgy cut. The trick through this S is to use as much curb as possible without doing what you've just seen me do, basically. You can see though on the split time, the mistake around turn 1 has hindered me quite a lot, because I probably gained a bit by cutting the curbs like I did. Anyway, the number 70 also made a mistake through the S's, not quite the same, in the same vein as myself, but I am right back on his bumper again, and this time going into this corner where I said I was quicker. I've been saying I was quicker because I could get a better exit. This time I went for the move on the entry, and look at that. He can't stick it around the outside like he has done at the next corner a couple of times, but yeah, I don't need to go for an attacking move into this corner this time. I need to go for a defensive one instead, and he is going to go for a move. That's a really good move. He's just about got it stopped to do the cutback though, and he's going to be on my right hand side, and once again on the outside there's a little bit of contact around the right hander. Where are we? Where is he? Are we going to clear him? We're into that horrible corner with 1,000 lines again. We're taking the inside line and doing it right this time. He's gone for the outside line and not really got the momentum. You can see him in my mirror. Quite a significant way back in comparison to how close we have been throughout most of the battles that you've seen so far in this video. He's got a good run around the long right-hander though. In the penultimate corner he's really attacking the apex. He's right on my bumper once again, so ignore what I said about having a little bit of a gap around the final corner now, and I've said I'm not very good at getting a good exit, but he runs wide behind me, which does give me just a little bit of breathing room at last. On to the next lap. Lap 24 is in the mirror. He's getting really close, and he's gone too deep on the brakes, and he's gone very, very wide. And I think that's going to be it for any kind of battle. He's now definitely got... Well, he's not... Considering I put this highlight in to showcase the fact that he's dropped back, he hasn't dropped back a million miles. I'm still enjoying my tight line through there. And flooring it on the exit. But there is definitely a buffer. And that buffer would suffice. It was good enough for me to not have to defend. We weren't embroiled in much of a battle any more towards the end of the race. I say anymore, it's not like it was a short battle. I mean, most of this video has been the battle between me and the number 70 that's currently behind me. But as I mentioned again earlier in the video, my tyres at the end of my stints were just... it's like bubble gum. They're just so hot, probably very melted, and just very, very worn. And you can see in the mirror, you wouldn't know that I'd had 5 laps of freedom and no defending, because he's just right there. I mean, look how it just doesn't want to turn into the final corner. The leaders have crossed the line up ahead. He runs a little bit wide behind me again. It's the final corner now. I just need to get a good exit out of here one last time, but I'm running a little bit wide again, and it just looks so lethargic. I'll swap into the third person view as we run towards the line, and he's just, look at that. That couldn't be much closer, really, could it? I know, well, it could, because he wasn't even alongside, but whew, that was a tense finish. Now, unfortunately, because of how far I have been behind, I didn't get screenshots of the TASCAR standings before the next round happened, so I can't show you what the standings were like after the end of this race. What I can tell you, though, is that VPR team standings, as of the end of this race, we were still leading, as we have been for a couple of rounds now, so we're still... And with a third and fourth in this round, I think we did actually extend our lead, so very, very promising. Come back to the next video, where you will see the standings, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.